for the advanced people, so you're saying people who've done over 100 shows, are you saying shows or open mics, or just 100 times on stage? What
100 times on stage? In my mind,
okay.
they've done open mic 100 times. Obviously, it's it's a fungible line in the sand,
right?
But the premise for stepping forward there's more than one premise behind it. I'll explain in a second.
Yeah, please.
But it is ultimately to show people how to. Obviously, the key two things are improving your writing, improving your performance, and there's about half the course is focused exclusively on those. And I'll explain the framework in a second, because that's the cinematic system of stand-up.
Yeah.
And then the latter half, or maybe latter third, is more focused on navigating the scene when you're dealing with things like critics, competitions, marketing, publicity, filming yourself, ultimately explaining how you're more likely to get an agent and what a good agent should do for you. I've seen far too many acts get excited that they've got an agent and they haven't paid attention to the quality of that agent. And that's really important. So maybe if it's okay with you, I'll explain something more of the concept, the cinematic system. It was very early days of being, running open mic nights, and I just saw so much overlap with the world of cinema, which I used to report on, like for over a decade, in both print, radio, and primarily television. I ended up making lots of documentaries about cinema, so lots of interviewing famous people, filmmakers, visiting sets, deep dives into certain movies. King Kong with Peter Jackson would be just one. And the storytelling aspect of it became very clear to me quickly. And then really it was when I started putting this premise together, slowly but surely in my brain over a decade, really. It was stand-up comedians and filmmakers are, they both have to generate stories, the story by credit, if you like. They've got to write the script. They're going to produce their own efforts, which is basically the production that is everything off stage, booking your gigs, getting there on time, taking the time to apply for the competitions and understanding the rules, everything that goes with it. Everything off stage is the producer, everything on stage is the result of the director. Every actor is their own director. And of course, they're their own leading role. Understanding things like stagecraft, there are 9 points on the stage to operate from. I've barely met an open mic comedian who understands that. So I've got a whole kind of graphic built in which explains the power spots on the stage, when you want to be more intimate with your crowd, when you want to step back, how you can set up a joke on the stage left, drift across stage right, and then deliver the punch. That's a common kind of Chris Rock technique. So all of these things are baked in, and then we get into things like hair, makeup, and wardrobe. With all due respect, I think it's typically more a concern for female acts than male acts, but I would always put on a tasteless shirt akin to this before a show. Within 5 minutes before the show, I would always go into a tasteless, colourful shirt, and somehow or other psychologically I slipped into a show mode. There's a great pro comedian here. His image is partly by wearing a white smart suit jacket. He's the same. He moves into comedy mode the minute that jacket goes. So we're looking at things like makeup, hair, wardrobe, how you present yourself. And then, as I mentioned, you've got marketing and publicity. How are you going to do that? Navigating the social media landscape. I actually mentioned something in some detail there about social media when I recorded it earlier in the year. And I warn about investing too much of your content on a social media platform. And in my mind, I was thinking of Vine, because I had friends who were very successful on Vine a few years ago, and then that just got taken. I've built most of my stuff on my website, like front and center, but over the years, Facebook, because I've been going so long, was also the bedrock. There's something approaching 10,000 people on there now. But I was also thinking of TikTok. There's this discussion that TikTok could get banned, but actually what happened is Elon Musk bought Twitter, and at least half of my friends I know have now left Twitter. So the idea is not only how you would film yourself, sound and camera considerations, but also where you're going to put it. And also how wise is it to put out your jokes in year one, which almost by definition is going to be the weakest material you ever deliver, and that stuff can come back and haunt you. Yep. So probably better to invest your time in writing and getting stage time than trying to get likes and follows on, what will be possibly your worst material ever. Invest your time here and then build your website. That's where your hub for everything should be. So, that's some aspects of marketing and publicity. It goes much deeper. Obviously, independent films tend to break at independent film festivals or film festivals, whether that's Sundance or Cannes, Toronto, Berlin, wherever it might be. And that's typically where the critics are, the agents are. They're paying attention to the big competitions. So whether you're a breakthrough comedian, or whether you're Quentin Tarantino, you broke at a competition and doing well. Tarantino broke Reservoir Dogs at Sundance, and of course Pulp Fiction, his next film, wins at Cannes. So that's there were only three aspects of it that I truly felt like I had to go outside and get information from. I could cover everything else myself, but when it came to critics, competitions, and agents, I thought it was right to do some outside research. So I interviewed really great people in each territory. So critics and reviewers is obviously something filmmakers and comedians on the up have to deal with. Actually defining the difference between reviewers and critics. I used to consider myself a film critic at one time. Actually, having spoken to the comedy critic, I realised, if anything, I was probably a high-end reviewer. There is, in fact, a difference between the two, and I break that down in the course as well. The competitions are all important. Once you've got to a standard, there's no point trying too soon. And then ultimately you're navigating towards that agent, and I include plenty of information of what you should be finding out from the agent. What do they want to know of you? What do you expect of them? You know, people get too excited, go, I can get an agent. Yeah, but if it's a rubbish agent, it's actually a backward step. If you get a great agent, they're going to work you, they're going to blood you, they're going to give you hard gigs, they're going to give you insight and become some kind of personal director. The right agent is so much more important than an agent. So these are many of the major things, but there's other aspects in there. So that's what I've called the cinematic system of stand-up. First half, 2/3, writing and performing. Last third or so is navigating the scene to the ultimate goal, really, of getting an agent. Once an open mic act has moved to the point of getting an agent, then they're very much closing in on the territory of being a pro, and they don't need courses from people like me. That agent should be the one moving them forward. That was a long answer. You're a patient man, JD. Thank you.
No, I love it. This is exactly, see, that's exactly what I like to hear. The books, the ebooks and stuff, and the courses. What if people want to invest in this kind of stuff? What are they looking at? What's the price ranges for them? If you could do US dollars, that'd be great. If not, it's okay.
I give you an approximation US dollars. I believe it's approximately 20% above the pound, give or take, is translation. So the beginner's course, as I say, that's about 2.5 hours. That's £99. It's approximately $120. The advanced courses, I consider both the MCing, how to be a brilliant MC, stand-up comedy MC, and the stepping forward, that's cinematic system, that's the big epic 1 5 and a bit hours. They're both £197. So I guess that puts it in approximately the $240 category. Obviously, it's lifetime access. Once somebody buys a course, it's theirs forever, and then they can dip in and out. And you know, it should be the gift that keeps on giving. Once they've done the course, you know, they should obviously go out and gig and go, actually, there was something I remember in that course. Go back, check out session 8, do that again. It's there to kind of keep helping over and over. With the live workshops that I mentioned, where this kind of began, you know, really, they're only helpful to people that are within a certain area of London. You know, I have had people flying from Norway and coming from Wales and more distant places like Bristol and Brighton. You know, England's a relatively small country at the end of the day, but if you don't live in London, you couldn't access these workshops that I was putting on. And as I said, as an MC, I was regularly getting asked the same 100 or so questions would come round and around. And then sitting on the workshops that I was producing, you know, I'd still get, you know, the guy who teaches my clowning workshop is Dave Thompson. He was Tinky Winky in the Teletubbies. A wonderful man, a brilliant stand-up comedian. But even in a workshop about clowning, the students would ask about heckling. I mean, that's really not a thing for them to worry about, but these questions about hecklers will come up over again and again. So I like to think I'm in a fairly solid position to know what it is newer comedians, whether that's brand new, never done it, or 100 gigs in or 300 gigs in. I know what's on their mind because they've asked me. I've seen them bring it up in workshops. So of course, that's gone into the courses. And then, of course, people have the option to bundle them together. If you buy 2, it becomes a bit cheaper. If you buy 3, a bit cheaper. Or you can bundle them with one-to-one coaching. I do one-to-one coaching on Zoom as well. So there's all sorts of permutations and variations.